do you think it'll take to get the paparazzi to leave you alone?
I don't know.
Is that one of your biggest wishes?
Yeah. I would like for them to leave me alone.
Amid a media frenzy, the 26-year-old pop star was brought by ambulance to a Los Angeles hospital from her Beverly Hills home.
Britney Spears was the undisputed blueprint for pop stardom in the modern millennium. Her music defined the airwaves. Her low-rise denim and crop tops engineered the Y2K style aesthetic we know today, and her choreography was replicated in bedrooms across the globe. She was who every teenager wanted to be in the early 2000s, but her monolithic fame and the adulation of her fandom came at a life-shattering cost. She was quite literally hunted. Every step she took was tracked, mapped, and commodified because a global public was absolutely enamored by her every move and her very being. This one-sided emotional obsession is something called a parasocial relationship. By definition, parasocial relationships are entirely asymmetrical. It is a psychological dynamic where one person extends immense emotional energy, interest, and time, while the other party is completely unaware of their individual existence. It's like having a million invisible stalkers. In the early 2000s, that mass psychological fixation manifested physically as a wall of flashing lenses, relentlessly documenting her every movement. What happens when your fame completely supersedes your humanity in the eyes of a media-crazed audience? We're going to dissect the architecture of the modern celebrity surveillance state and decode the dark psychology of why humans love to watch their icons fall apart. To understand why the public felt like they owned Britney Spears, we have to look at the fundamental vulnerability of how human beings consume art. We think we know these people. We think we share a deep spiritual bond with them because they created a piece of art that resonates with us emotionally. That art creates an illusion of closeness with a complete stranger. We hear people say things like, "Michael Jackson's music saved my life." I even saw a comment once from a woman saying, "I gave birth to my child listening to Michael and named my son Michael Joseph." When an artist's work becomes the literal soundtrack to your life, experiencing your first heartbreak, your coming of age, your deepest personal milestones, a profound bond is formed in your brain. You stop viewing the artist as an entertainer or even just another human being. You begin viewing them as a personal confidant.
This may I have you, please?
Sir, this way.
I'm the leader. Germany loves you, Michael.
In the 90s and 2000s, consumer technology collided with this psychological phenomenon in a way history had never seen before. With 24/7 news reporting, the internet expanding, and blogging culture emerging, the public's desire to know their intimate friends like Britney, Michael, and outside of music, Princess Diana and Lindsay Lohan turned into an insatiable commercial demand. The public didn't just want to listen to their albums or see them in official capacities anymore. They felt entitled to every element of their lives. There is a common counter-argument that routinely gets thrown at suffering celebrities. They signed up for fame, so they shouldn't complain. But that narrative is a gross oversimplification. Consider the icons who face the most aggressive public scrutiny. Justin Bieber, Michael Jackson, Britney Spears. They didn't enter the arena as fully formed adults with corporate strategies. They were thrust into the global spotlight from childhood or adolescence. From a neurological standpoint, they were forced into hyper-fame long before their prefrontal cortex, the sound decision-making part of the human brain, was fully developed. They were forced to experience their worst mistakes, their heartbreaks, and the messy growing pains of coming of age entirely in public. When a 2000s pop star like Britney was being viciously judged by the media for how she looked after her children, the public wasn't looking at the reality. Reality was a 20-year-old girl struggling with postpartum depression, trying trying to navigate new motherhood like any other woman in her predicament, except she couldn't do it within the private comfort of her family. She had to do it under a microscope. Consider your own morning routine. When you open your window in the morning, the first thing you see is probably the sun, some trees, your neighbours, or a quiet street. That visual baseline sets the tone for your day. But for Britney Spears in the 2000s or Michael Jackson in the 90s, the first thing they saw upon opening their blinds was a flurry of complete strangers utilising high-powered zoom lenses, desperate to catch them freshly out of bed, totally unready to face the world. Today, we have intense public debates about the rise of a modern surveillance state where AI monitors us through facial recognition. But for these pop stars, that surveillance state was their baseline reality for decades. The constant surveillance wasn't just a byproduct of fame, it was a highly organised, multi-million-dollar corporate industry, and the public fueled every single dollar of it. Without the consumer eagerly buying the magazines at the supermarket checkout line, these tabloids would have stopped printing, and these stars could have maintained some semblance of a personal life. But the market was too lucrative. During the peak of the media madness in 2007, the photo agency X17 reported that photos of Britney Spears alone accounted for a staggering 25 to 30% of their entire corporate revenue. She was a self-contained economy. Images of her navigating a visible mental health crisis could fetch up to $500,000 for a single exclusive print. When the financial incentives are that massive, human ethics disappear. The media machine didn't just follow these stars, they actively infiltrated their lives.
Yeah, a friend of mine told National Enquiry that he knew some family that knew the Jacksons, and they called me on the phone and asked me to come to the hotel. So I go down and I said, yeah, what's happening? I said, I'm here to help Michael. Oh, he said, oh, no. That ain't what we want with you. We heard it that your boy spent nights at the house. We want to know if Michael tampered with him. I just picked him up or touched him in any kind of way. I said, man, I can't do that. Can't tell no lie like that. I ain't doing that.
So they want to pay you $200,000 to say that Michael Jackson molested your kids.
Yeah, just touch them or whatever, man. Let's touch them or anything.
We saw UK tabloids like News of the World systematically tapping the phones of public figures and royal aides. Journalists engaged in dumpster diving, falsifying legal documents, and paying off close sources to manufacture sensationalized, fraudulent stories.
It was an iconic, explosive, and unforgettable interview. Princess Diana was deceived into giving it. Martin Bashir met Princess Diana through her brother. Mr. Bashir showed him fake bank statements, falsely suggesting people close to Princess Diana were being paid to spy on her.
Towards the end of Michael Jackson's life, the pressure was so severe that the only way he could occasionally escape the limelight was to live like a literal fugitive. He had to rely on foreign diplomats to house him in countries like Bahrain, even resorting to wearing traditional women's Islamic attire like an abaya and hijab, simply to walk through a mall undetected. And yet the paparazzi still found him. To truly understand the sheer malice of this era, we have to look back to the definitive tragedy that blueprinted it all. Princess Diana's end in 1997. The chase through Alma's Bridge Tunnel in Paris was the ultimate catastrophic consequence of an unregulated, aggressive paparazzi machine. A literal vanguard of photographers on motorcycles pursued her vehicle at high speeds, blind to the human lives inside, driven entirely by the multi-million-dollar bounty on her image. Even as the wreckage settled in that tunnel, the flashing lenses didn't stop. Photographers famously took photos of the princess taking her last breaths instead of offering aid. It proved to the world that within the industrial system, a celebrity's tragedy isn't a crisis, it's the ultimate payday. That raises an uncomfortable fundamental question about human nature.
You have to realize that we're people and that we just need privacy and we need our respect. And those are things that you have to have as a human
Why do we derive so much entertainment from watching someone else suffer? Psychologists call this phenomenon Schadenfreude, a loan word from German that literally translates to harm, joy. It is the experience of pleasure, satisfaction, or self-elevation that comes from witnessing the troubles, failures, and humiliation of another human being. According to social comparison theory, when a highly successful, exceptionally beautiful, or wealthy individual fall from grace, it triggers a subconscious relief in the observer's brain. The downfalls of the rich and powerful function as a symbolic leveling of the playing field. It reduces the perceived status gap between the ordinary civilian and the public figure's extraordinary privileges. So when the spotlight is that bright, celebrities are held to an impossible standard of perfection. So when what appears to be a celebrity gone wild hits the headlines, the public consumes it like a serialized reality show. In reality, it's just a teenage boy going through puberty doing foolish things, or a young woman collapsing under the weight of being treated as a product rather than a person. But through the lens of parasocial media, the public doesn't see their pain, they only see entertainment. It's easy for us to look back at the early 2000s with a sense of moral superiority. We can tell ourselves that society has grown, that the media landscape has evolved, and that it would never treat a young star the way the world treated Britney Spears in 2007. But the truth is, the architecture of the tabloid machine never actually left. It migrated. Physical gossip magazines at the grocery store checkout aren't the primary source anymore, but most people spend hours scrolling through hyper niche subreddits, gossip blogs, TikTok commentary channels, and viral tweet threads, dissecting the downfalls of modern celebrities, influencers, and creators with the exact same insatiable curiosity. The cameras may have changed hands from freelance paparazzi to everyday smartphone users, but the parasocial sense of ownership remains completely identical. The fame ecosystem still builds icons up into commercialized blueprints for perfection, and the public still waits with bated breath for the illusion to crack. Britney Spears wasn't just a pop star who lost her privacy. She was a warning sign. She showed us what happens when a society mistakes an artist's vulnerability for public property and trades a human being's sanity for a lifetime subscription to the spectacle. Which brings me to the next video in this series. We're going to look at what happens when pop stars dedicate their entire lives to their craft, and why being a multi-million generating public figure tied to multi-year contracts means quitting isn't an option, even when they desperately need to due to health issues or old age, and the industry handlers who allow it to happen.
Can we just do it again without just the negative saying that you don't like the tour?
I don't like it though.
I know, but see,
I go through hell.
Setting up, though?
I go through hell touring. Okay, then I'll make it positive then.
Yeah, it's just
well, you know the truth.
Yeah.
Okay.
And action, Michael.
I love to tour.